Well, today's the day we've been waiting a long time for. The tank is ready for the stenciling. We have the Thomas Luciano stencils. And John Pothier and Thomas, I'm sure they're both looking forward to seeing how these stencils are going to come out. I'm looking forward to seeing how they come out. And getting these, John has made these stencils for every one of these bikes. And we've used several different methods. The method we're going to use today, for the first time, we're going to use these stencils. And I really think they're going to come out nice. I'm going to try to show all of the little experiments that we've done in the past to try to make these better. And this is the final result. If we get to the end of this day and have the gold Kawasaki lettering in the new position that we want to put it on the tank, I will be one very happy person. And the truth is, I'm going to be happy no matter what, for one simple reason. This project has gone on, if we're in the 4th month, and every day it's been a little bit different of an adventure. It's been a lot of fun. The results are kind of real positive to me. I can't imagine any part of putting this back together that's going to be overly challenging. And the quality of the finish, and that's always my objective number one, is to have a really high quality finish. I think we're going to have it. Now, if you happen to see yesterday's video, yesterday we posted up some of the memories of the New Jersey Sport Bike Club. I have so much more of that video to edit, and thank you, John Pothier, for helping me with getting some of that old flip footage converted. We have a lot of it now, and I'll try to be from time to time, not on a regular basis, putting it at the end of the videos, some of the interesting memories, and I've already anticipated some of the other things that I have on there that I didn't realize I had that much footage from years ago. Actually, some of the rides, when I look back at them, I think, wow, boy, did we have a good time back in the day. But I'm done flipping battery chargers. I want to get out of this cold. And it is brutally cold this morning. It's below freezing. I'm glad I'm not working outside today. The few errands I have, I'll be done with early in the morning, and I want to get that lettering done. And I see we have ice on the pond again today, which usually means it's below 20 or something. It really has to be at least in the mid-20s before we have any ice. It's cold again. And when there's ice on the pond, we make the coffee extra strong. But it doesn't melt the ice. Yes, in this cold weather, the birds really do appreciate. Oh, they're all coming to see me this morning. Where's my mockingbird? Well, that coffee tastes great when I'm out on a summer ride. Here we are. Oh my God. A month from now, the winter will be going bye-bye. The spring will be here. Oh, look at a Mudna Viaduct on this ride. Wow, we were up there a lot last summer. That's a pretty spectacular place to ride, too. Pretty cool stuff. But that whole area up around Mudna is just full of nice roads to go through the gears on. Oh, I love the sound of that FCR. So the tank has been drying under a heating vent. Yesterday we put on what I think was the thinnest, nicest coat of Bentley black. I hope that's going to really pay in the long run. We have all the stenciling from Thomas Luciano over there, and it's just a question of letting that coffee kick in now and getting set up for the day's work. And I'm never sure why, but I do like to oogle the parts in the morning and think about what step I want to do after this, or even more important, while something's drying, what do I want to be working on? It was good that we got the fairing all prepped up. Actually, we're going to have time now, and this is the kind of thing I try to think of ahead of time. As the first couple coats of clear are drying, I always like to let that dry a couple days. I think we'll be ready to start assembling a motorcycle very soon. And those parts are ready to go. There is no buffing left. The only part left to buff is going to be the fuel tank itself. And even all these carbon fiber parts, I just think they came out great. This, I said it in the garage this morning, this is one of the projects that every step of it exceeded my expectations. I wanted to get all my errands done, boy, in case anybody hasn't seen this American Dream thing. And look at this. This is unbelievable. I don't know if you can see, it's gone up to 26 degrees. Wow, at 26. by lunchtime we'll be able to paint. Now it's so good to be back, and I was really hoping of hopes I get all the stuff I have to do done this morning, have the rest of the day free to do the lettering, and it would warm up. But as you can see, still 26, and I really don't like to even use any paint until it's above freezing. So I hope this warms up, but I'm gonna go do the stenciling anyway. Now we're pretty much ready to lay out the lettering. There's a couple of things I have to take into account. The original lettering was under the tank bag magnet, so I wanted to lower it down. That was step one. So the first thing I wanted to do, I want to take a small piece of 2000 grit sandpaper, and where this decal is going to go, I'm doing it dry, not wet. Now this is just in case there's a little speck of dirt or a little, and it might or might not be, I don't know, but this will ensure that will minimize the chance that we have something that's going to show through in the gold. Now, I didn't want to take any chances. I want that gold, because if there's a little speck of dirt in there, it's going to show up through the gold. So now positioning this is ultra critical, because where the tank bag, and we never ride without the tank bag with the radar detector and all our spare parts and whatever in there. But the key thing is I made a template up with the original decal following the lines of the bike that I wanted to carry through into this part of the project. So what has happened is I want to have that template. I'll wipe this down now. I want to have that template, and then I want to make sure I get everything even, because from the top you'll be able to see both sides of this. So if one is crooked, I want it to be, and I'll do it very, very carefully and not skimp here. So I wanted this to be perfectly clean and flat, and make sure there's no, see, the reason the gold shows every little mistake. Of course, a lot of colors do. Black is another one. Oh, so what I didn't want to have happen is there'd be one little, the tiniest thing, and in the gold it shows up, because when we do the gold, I don't want to make the gold any thicker than it has to be, otherwise I have to bury it in extra coats of clear. So it all starts with, I want the overall paint to be as thin as possible, and as much of the paint to be as clear as possible, so it gives that depth to the Bentley black. And that was just a common sense thing. What I wouldn't want to have, an example would be 10 coats of filler primer and then 1 coat of clear. Well, I don't want that either. So anyway, this is now we've reached a part of the job that's very critical. So I want to try to share what I know from building models for 50 plus years and doing this kind of a paint layout, which is a lot simpler than, say, the FZR was, but it's still, if you get it wrong, people are going to know it right away. It won't matter if you're building a model plane, a model boat, a rocket to the moon, or whatever. This is a thing, Les Demet, was a good friend. He worked in the shop here for about 5 or 6 years. He taught me this trick, and it works perfectly. No matter what you do, and you're going to lay things out in all different angles and edges and everything, always start with a center line. And thank you, Les, for sharing that. Les was a very engineer-oriented guy, and we built twin-engine planes, and we had to line up 2 engines and thrust lines and offset angles. He was really good at doing that, and again, thank you, Les. And he was a talented modeler, trust me. So anyway, we're going to start with, what I want to do is get a piece of tape that all this tape is going to do is give us a center line. And we like it to be, well, relatively accurate, because everything we lay out is going to come from this center line. If this center line is off, we're going to be in trouble. So the first thing is to get it on here, and then I want to measure at choice spots. It won't matter if you use a ruler or a piece of paper. We want it to be equal, and getting that center line straight, the rest of it will be easy. Now I don't really need the center line back here, because the trim is going to start here. So what I really want to focus on is that I have this center line equal, equal, and equal. And once I know that the center line is equal, then I can measure down to where the layout of the lettering is going to go. Now, I also don't want the lettering angles different. I want them to be two. When I look from the top or the front or the side, they're both in perfectly straight alignment. I wouldn't want to do is just take the things and go, yeah, like when people put stickers on bikes. I've seen that. Won't mention any names, but oh wait, it's a little crooked. Ah, it's going the other way. No, we'd like to do it with a tape outline. And this is the best way I know to do it, whether you're trying to line up the lettering on two wings of an airplane or whatever, two engines on a twin engine plane. Always start with a center line. That is good quality information. And again, thank you, Les Demet. Now I find doing this easier with a piece of paper than with a ruler. So what I've taken is I've measured the edge of the cap to the center line. And then I want to make sure both sides are exactly the same, in which case they are. So what it means is we've got that in the cap area perfectly centered. Now I want to do the same thing down here. And it looks like we're a 64th of an inch off to this side. So what I'm going to do is just reposition this ever so slightly. And I can do that since we're not going to use this as a tape line. I can get that right on the money now. Right on the money. So now what it's telling me is where this decal is going to be. We are right in the middle. Now early in the project I made this template up because this was telling me the edge of the old lettering. And I know I want to bring it down, so once I put a piece of tape out here, I can lower it the thickness of a tape, of 2 pieces of tape, 3 pieces of tape. But then what I can do is flip this over, and referencing from the center line to the top line, I can see if that's the same as it is on the other side. Is it parallel to the other side? Because that line is a line that's common to a lot of the body angles on the fairing. So having this template, if you just did it by eye, there'd be a chance you got one down, one up. And I saw it, this is not funny and I'm not criticizing somebody, they did a beautiful H1 restoration, and I mean priceless. It looked like a $20,000 restoration. And then they showed a side view of the bike, and I saw the thing, that's sticker or whatever it is. And I know because I did Luciano's exact H1 the same way, and lining up that thing. So what happened, the one on the tank was here and the one on the tail, they didn't line up. And I said, oh man alive. Well, I know this takes a lot of time. It eats up a couple hours, but in the end, when they're perfect, then you know you're working, and you're not going to be disappointed when you pull the mask up and see, ah. So that gives us our first piece of tape to use for alignment purposes. And of course, when I put this on the other side, I've got to flip it over. I want to be careful. I don't want to scratch the paint. Try to make sure my hands were clean. I don't have Cheerios or something on them. Okay, so that sets this is what this would be. Let me just show this. The original, take this off. The original sticker was at the top of that alignment. That's where it was. And we want it down, and I'm just going to guess, I'm taking a wild guess here, we want it down about maybe even lower than that. I don't know. But this will be very easy because we'll just do it with thicknesses of tape. Well, anytime I'm just doing what I call layout tape, I can do this, rub it up on your shirt a few times. Now I don't know, I'm just taking a stab in the dark here that this is going to be close to what we want. If it isn't, we'll make it thinner or thicker. But now we have a reference line we can work off exactly on the other side. So now I need to know with my alignment, is that going to work? How close is that going to be? Let's see, we want it a little closer there. Okay, so now what I want to do is go get the tank bag and make sure those magnets from the tank bag are not touching the stickers. That's a problem. Now what I did on the FZR, when I did put all the clear on, where the tank bag actually is, I put that clear, and it's under the tank bag, you don't even see it, that clear wrapping that Midgley sent me, and that worked out great. But I want to have a way of referencing this alignment, and I don't want one further forward than the other. So in essence, this takes a long time. And if you do it any other way, and somebody's a highly skilled, they're looking at things, they're going to spot it right away. So here's what it looks like. It looks like I have to go down, and I can just a little bit more. See, the idea was I did not want that to be covering up the word Kawasaki. Now I've got it close, and I'm thinking I'll go another 1/4 of an inch. I got plenty on the bottom, and I would never even think, and thank you, Jose, for talking me into getting this. I rode with Jose several times, heard his radar detector go off, and saw that we got saved by the bell. Well, that Valentine is the best investment. I bet I've made $5,000. Probably enough to buy a Ducati. But anyway, that is a good investment. For my riding style, I always like to have it. And having this showing, where before it was up where the blue tape is, that was a key part of my vision for this restoration. So you can see how easy this is to adjust the line. I can go down 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch. And then when I put this up, I'll work off the top of the lettering, the mask, and I should have that. That should really make it accurate. Okay, so now the only thing we need to know is this. We don't need this piece of tape anymore. In fact, we could use this for the other side because it's already been detacked. We don't need this anymore. We can, oh wait, I ought to leave it on just so I can reference this. But I will check. Now when I flip this over, I'll check that I have that and that. This is parallel. Lay out this thick piece of tape, the thin, and then double check that I've got all of these measurements equal, and then put it on the floor and look down directly from the top. And then I just have to decide how far back, how far forward, and put a piece of tape around the front. So I will have a 90-degree box. When I lay out that sticker, it'll just go, and they should be perfect the first shot. I won't waste 10 stickers to get them equal. So now we have our pattern flipped, and the rest of this now is just marrying it up to the other side. Relatively straightforward thing to do. So before you go to the next piece of tape, you have to get this one parallel and then this one parallel. So again, I can use the other piece of my paper. It's just easier than if you have a solid ruler. It's hard to go around a corner. So the first thing I would want to do is make sure I'm to the top of this tape. And once I have this done, I can tell if I'm close or no cigar. It's so close you can't believe it. I didn't plan it this way. It never works out this way in the real world, by the way. We're just lucky, I guess. Okay, so at this station here, just couldn't be any closer. So with everything just lightly tacked down, and this is kind of sticky paper, but I'll be careful to use a heat gun when I pull up the tape. I don't want to leave any residue on there. And I'm trying to look at it from every possible angle and see if I've got it close. But the ultimate test is going to be, because these are different on each side, I'm going to have to trim some of that away. And I think we're pretty close to being ready to put those stickers on. Now, we've never used these before, and it's a new material, and I'm going to be careful every step of the way. So the first thing I want to do is trim these up so that they're both the same, because I don't want to have the overage here. And I know all I need to do is get the top line and how far forward they need to go. And we don't need that material for right now. Now, because this is a material we really haven't worked with before, and this was all laser cut, I'm just eyeballing this up. We have the front to back. I have the edge to edge. I have this parallel. I don't need any of these other tapes. I only really need this one piece of tape now to set this in position. So the rest of this can actually come off. I don't need this right now. I can trim this so I don't have it in my way. Now you notice anytime you make decals, you just fill the whole sheet with decals. Simple reason is because a lot of times it doesn't go right on the first shot. Well, we're hoping this does go right on the first shot, but since it's new material, we're going to find out. Now this has a clear paper on it that holds everything in position. John Pothier had sent this tape just in case this clear paper didn't work out the way we wanted to, but now I'm going to be real careful here. I'm going to put this turn this around. So it's, I gotta kind of jig this up, I guess is the right word. So I can get this, eyeball it up. Anyway, all of this work was to get just this tape alignment. And once we have that, the rest of it, and they're even, this should go pretty, every time I say that. Now luckily, Thomas made up about 15 extra ones, but let's hope we can get this right on the first couple of shots. Usually once I've worked with material over and over again, well, I get kind of comfortable with it, but let's see if this is going to be similar to the 650 stuff. It's actually similar material, I think. And Thomas did these in a laser printer from files that were created by John. Now, let's see how this is going to work. Again, John sent that clear tape, but this already has clear tape on it, so oh, we got the little piece there. Is that going to work? Can I get that to stick? Maybe. Oh, it did stick. Okay, so let's see if I can do that for all the letters. And what I'm doing here. Oh, that one stayed in position. Boy, is that nice if it stays in position. How about this one, this A in the Kawasaki? I'll squeeze it. John was real concerned about lining these up. Yeah, that one doesn't want to stick. Let's see. There it goes. So now this was the test of tests. Was this whole thing, I don't want to get any schmutz or anything on it. We got all the little things put in position. We have our alignment, which should be really relatively accurate. Now this I want to press down. I wanted to show this, of course, in real time. I know John and Thomas will be interested in seeing how this worked pretty good, by the way. This sticky clear stuff even picked up the little A in the Kawasaki and whatnot, so I guess that's to our advantage. Now I'm going to rub these down again, I want to show one in real time. I'm going to take my time. When I go to take any of the tape off now, I want to take it off with heat. So number one, I don't leave any residue or the minimum residue. And if I can get all the air bubbles out of this, and when I spray this with the airbrush, the trick is I want to spray right into it, not off to the side. Hopefully give me nice, crisp, clean lines. Again, this is the first time we're working with this material, so, well, I guess we're going to find out. But we have plenty of extra ones just in case. And, you know, I hate to say this, but I will inventory them up because you never know, as a case with the FZR, that I'm going to have to repaint if the bike ever gets damaged in some way or something that we haven't anticipated yet. That absolutely looks like, now I'm going to just see if this is any better. Especially those little dots for the A. I want them to be really down. Now you could be thinking, if you haven't watched all the videos, you probably could be thinking, why not just buy a sticker at a sticker shop? Well, the problem is the gold would never match, period. That's number one. Number two, the thickness of the stickers would mean that I'd have to put really excessive amounts of clear on this, and making the paint overly thick usually results in paint that somewhere down the road cracks. So that's in this case, this is the win-win-win if we get it to work. Now I'm looking, it looks like I've got most of the edges. It looks good. Looks really good, in fact. So now the trick is, if I'm not going to pull up the little pieces in the middle, we'll see if that's going to be the case. Now I have to separate this. And the trick, when I backmask this, it has to be backmasked totally, because the gold little sparkles, the pigment, I want this Bentley black to be Bentley black, not Bentley with a couple of sparkles in it. Now I'm doing this really, really carefully. And I think I have it. But again, you never know. So I wanted to try something. And again, I'm trying to do one in real time, is always the case. Now I can feel, see, I don't want to pick up that little middle piece of the A. Didn't pick it up. Okay. Safe with that one. Down to the S. Heat is always your friend in picking up tape. Okay, now get to that last little A, and if that one comes up, or in this case stays there, it looks like it's going to, it started coming up, but it didn't. So that means we've got those really perfectly positioned. Let's see. Now, I want to be ultra careful. Right now, I want to go around this. I don't want to get any grit, any dirt, but anything like an air bubble I can get out of this will be, and this is thin material, so we should get a nice clean paint edge, I hope. And it's not quite above freezing yet, but I don't think it'll matter for this amount of stuff. Now the gold pigment, we have it set, the amount of pigment that's in the paint is so it covers in 3 coats. And 3 airbrush coats is usually 2 regular painting coats. So I would guess that's as good as it gets. So one down, I'll do the other one off camera, of course, and then I'll come back and try to get as many of these air bubbles out as I can. And then once that's set, carefully remove all the tape and check that I haven't somehow screwed this up. I think that's pretty good. Now the whole idea of this backmasking is to get as little of the tape touching the paint as possible to avoid contamination. In fact, I'm going to use a brand new roll of tape. I can't even find the beginning of the tape here. One of the advantages of having new tape tends to be not overly sticky. As tape ages, I have found, especially some of the masking tapes that are not 3M, some of the like off brands, wow, do they push it down onto the clean towel. I don't want to pick up any garbage. I want it to go, again, a minimum tape touching there. That would be just about right. And we'll be airbrushing this, so hopefully when this is all backmasked, there won't be any black paint exposed. I always try to remember to thank the late Walt Prey for sharing this technique of backmasking with tin foil and a part like this, just like wrapping the turkey for the oven. In fact, the shape of this tank, it really looks like a turkey. Let's hope we don't paint it and it looks like a turkey. Now, I really have been careful about making sure there's none of the gold, the pigment. Even though we're going to airbrush, it's just going to work its way under the tin foil, because if it is, we'll have to touch it up. Of course, we can do that, but I'd really like to not touch it up. Yeah, there you go. That's pretty much ready to airbrush the gold. So before I fire up the world's loudest, most obnoxious compressor, what I'm going to do is, with a Q-tip, and I'm going to take some, I want to make sure all these edges are down. And by the way, this material worked out great. The release, what John and I thought was going to be a problem with the clear, that was no problem at all. The material that came with it, and just worked perfectly. This whole thing worked perfect. Now it's up to me to get a nice 3 coats with the airbrush. I hope the wind isn't blowing, and we're hoping for the best. Now what I'm going to do is, before I even put this away, I'm going to take this, a little bit of prep wall, a perfectly clean Q-tip, get it almost dry, and just go over. Because your hands normally, and my hands probably more than anybody else, you get little The grease, normal skin has oil in it, grease. I'd like not to even have one little imperfection in this. Again, this is one of the focal points of the motorcycle. One of the parts that right from the very get-go, I had a little bit of anxiety that I was going to be able to do this with some other material, but it looks like between John and Thomas, we have really made some progress here. And I hope this information benefits not only the modeling friends I have, that I know there's still some modelers look at the videos, but everybody. Because when this is done, if it's done right, it'll just be beautiful. And if it isn't, if you take some kind of shortcut, or you missed the boat somehow, or the gold doesn't match, that was one of my fears. If you had this thing made up as a decal, that the gold would be close but no cigar. I want the cigar. Now, we know, luckily for us, we have used this before. It's been pigmented and adjusted to it covers in 3 coats. Just about right. Remember, the rule was, that my personal rule, if it covers in 1 coat, too much pigment. Doesn't cover in 2, and you got to go to 3. But now what I decided to do, I had the gun all set with gold. I forgot. I don't even have to put paint in the gun. And we just got done using it on the wheels. It should spray out. We'll put the pressure down and use it almost like an airbrush without having to change your paint in the airbrush. Now the idea is to get 3 light coats. Let it dry about 5-10 minutes in between coats. Alright, so we're going to let the first coat dry, and still, if that 15-20 minutes, come back, give it a second coat, and I'm sure I'll put the 3rd coat on anyway, just to be sure, because I really want that gold to pop. Now, I'm not sure you can see how that laid down, but that paint, that looked like it was a good choice, because I know that paint was flowing real nice the last time we painted gold with that gun, so looks like we lucked out here. All right, 1 final coat of gold on both sides, and we are really in good shape here. Well, this might have been our lucky day. That gold looks like it laid down just as good as it did when we did the wheels. Now that's going to sit. I know there's, even Turbo Steve told me there's people that pull the tape off an hour later, the mask. I'm going to let it sit overnight. That's the way I've always done it. I'm old school, and what can I say? I'm just old. Well, the last thing is going to happen is tomorrow. This is going to sit under a heating vent all night. This came out great. Thomas and John, I can't thank you enough. I've done enough of this to know if that mask pulls off, and it will, if it pulls out without doing any crazy stuff that we haven't anticipated, that is going to be one of the, when the wheels are popping, and that is a perfect match. All of the gold has come out of 1 batch of gold, so hopefully it'll all match. That hopefully is a big word, by the way. Anyway, we spent a long day. I was going to try to edit down some of that old sport bike stuff or something. I'm done. This has been a long day. So I hope you enjoyed sharing it with us, and thanks for watching.